I'm Barry Trammell, and it's a sad day if you're a fan of Nebraska football tradition.
I'm Jenny Carlson, and from the Opopco Studios in Oklahoma City, this is the Press Row. Barry, it's true, Nebraska leaving the Big 12, or the remaining Big 12 teams, now going to the Big 10. What does this do in terms of Nebraska?
Well, I actually think it's a great move for Nebraska. Both Harvey Perlman and Tom Osborne speaking to the regents at the regents meeting today in Nebraska said, you know what, we just feel a cultural fit, and the truth of the matter is, the way the Big 12 is developed, Nebraska belongs in the Big 10. Nebraska felt no kinship with Texas or the Texas schools. Nebraska felt disenfranchised from its old status in the Big 8. The Big 10 is a fantastic option. It's up there in the north part of the country with the other Big 10 schools. Great media options with television and revenue. So it's really a great day for Nebraska. It's a great fit for Nebraska. But the Huskers do walk away from a lot of tradition with Kansas and Missouri and Iowa State and Oklahoma. So, you know, if you're sort of a sentimentalist, you'll be a little bit sad.
Yeah, I think, you know, you mentioned the fit, and it really never seemed to mesh. And I think a lot of that was maybe under the surface. But some of those feelings that were voiced when the conference was coming together have emerged again. And I think some of that has to do with the fact that Nebraska football had a downturn and is really only now starting to recover, but still isn't back to where it was, you know, in its glory days and its Tom Osborne days. And I think a lot of that they've been able to pinpoint the southern schools, and in particular Texas, as a target for that angst. You know, Barry, the move to the Big 10 for Nebraska, I don't know if you could see them return to the glory of Tom Osborne, but that's the area of the country they recruit a lot more than Texas, Oklahoma. You know, this could be a chance for them to maybe gain some further footing in college football.
I think there's a chance Nebraska could move up the food chain. They obviously were not going to get there was a ceiling in the Big 12. They weren't going to catch Texas or Oklahoma. And frankly, until last season, when they staged a mini revival with Bo Pelini, Nebraska was down below Texas Tech and Oklahoma State and A&M. They really hadn't done much. So Nebraska has not won a Big 12 football championship in the 2000s. 1999 was the last title. So I don't think Nebraska is going to go 11 more years in the Big 10. I think you'll see Nebraska win fairly soon in the Big 10. It's not going to be easy. Ohio State is a monster. Penn State, Michigan will get back. But I do think the ceiling is a little more crackable in the Big 10.
You mentioned that it might not be too long before Nebraska's a conference champion again. They would like to start conference play in the Big 10 in 2011, which I think is another interesting move. We find out Friday afternoon with Nebraska talking about this move. I think a lot of people were thinking 2012, if there was going to be a jumping off point for the Big 12, it would be 2012. Well, now it may be accelerated by a year, which could mean the farewell tour starts next fall. It's going to be really interesting to see how some of these schools are received at other schools. You know, how is Nebraska going to be received in the South? How are the Southern schools going to be received in the North? It may not be the most, it may not be the nicest farewell tour for a lot of these schools. It's going to be really interesting, though, if that happens, to see how quickly all of this really moves. Stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.